Everywhere across the news, messages about a mysterious space station entering the orbit start appearing as news articles talk about this mysterious object and what it possibly could be. Meanwhile, in the GUN headquarters in London, Commander Walters is struggling on what to do since his last plans failed to stop Robotnik. Randall and Rockwell are looking on in confusion on what to do, considering that they're also involved. However, Randall gets a message on his phone. A video appears. In fact, everyone gets a message from Dr. Robotnik. Walters is a bit confused on what's going on, and he asks Randall, "What is this?" To which Randall states that it's a video that's some reason every time he goes onto social media, it's everywhere. Just then they turn on the TV and they see that the message is everywhere on every channel. Everywhere they look, Robotnik's message is playing. Rockwell suggests that Robotnik is using this for some kind of plot. Maybe perhaps blackmail or something, who knows. Robotnik appears in a Santa Claus outfit and declares that during the Christmas season he's feeling festive and that he wants one thing, and that he wants his lab and equipment back. Walters would refuse, as Robotnik's talking directly to him. He would tell him that he's insane and that he would never give everything he created back to him. To which Robotnik states, "Oh, is that so? Well then, I guess it's the hard way. As always then." As he says that, out of the vents from the office appear a bunch of buzz bombers and egg drones that surround the area. That ultimately, Randall and Rockwell drop their weapons in surrendering. Just then, next to Walters, Agent Stone takes off his mask and points his gun at Walters. Robotnik proceeds to mention how he basically fell for the ultimate trick, that he basically did not expect him to have a mole in the organization, which makes Walters annoyed. Meanwhile, Sonic, Tails, Amy and Knuckles are watching the news and they're seeing what Robotnik is up to. Sonic is annoyed and angry with Robotnik. Tails is wondering how on earth can Robotnik get a signal like this, and Knuckles looks at the, station that Robotnik is showing and thinks it looks like a somewhat Death Star. Robotnik then lays out his motivation, or what he wants. He wants his labs off Gun's network. Walters disagrees with this, telling him he's mad, to which Robotnik says there are two ways we can do this, the easy way or the hard way. Walters tells him to forget it, to which Robotnik says, "Wrong move." And with one push of a button at 50%, Robotnik fires a beam and it hits the moon, completely disintegrating half of it, which catches everyone around the planet off guard. Robotnik then states he's not messing around, and that if he wants the Earth to live, he should comply. Walters is handed a USB drive by Agent Stone, and as Walters plugs it in, Stone watches over him to make sure that he's doing it correctly. As Walters plugs it in, he then tries to type in his password, but it automatically does it for him. It then uploads everything that the labs have on Robotnik, and it completely changes the passwords so they can't get into any of the laboratories that Robotnik has made, or all the equipment that Robotnik still has. And pretty much it destroys the gun server. Robotnik smiles at this, saying, "Thank you," before Stone opens up a ring portal to walk out. However, before he does, Stone turns back around and tosses a coin to Walters and states, "The doctor thanks you for your service." As the ring disappears, Walters looks at the coin. In confusion, it has Robotnik's face on it, but it starts to bleep red until Randall reminds him that it's actually, an explosive, as it explodes, sending Walters crashing back. Stone enters on through the rain portal as celebrations are held into the air. Robotnik declares Stone the man of the hour. Well, he technically is the man of the hour, but Stone was the puppet of it all. Now it's the birth of an empire. Gerald is very happy with Robotnik. He states that he executed his plan perfectly. And thus, Robotnik says it's time to celebrate, as a Badnik brings out from a ring portal a bottle of champagne for 3 of them. The 3 of them cheers the birth of the now Robotnik Empire. Robotnik then decides to think of some ideas of who should be in which position of his empire, now that he has Shadow and of course Stone. When he asks Gerald, however, Gerald states he doesn't want anything to do with Robotnik's empire, which catches the Doctor off surprise. He tells the grandfather, with Shadow's power and of course their genius, they can rule humanity. But Gerald states, "Why would I want to rule it? I don't want to rule humanity, I want to destroy it. They must suffer for what they did to Maria. Humankind must suffer." Robotnik is horrified at this, but Gerald states that this is all part of his plan, and that bringing the Ark up here, plugging in the emeralds, and now he has all the power in the world. Gerald then offers Robotnik a deal. He can either go back to Earth and live out his days, or remaining hours that he has before the Earth is destroyed, or stay up here and rule the universe. Robotnik ultimately notices that all of Gerald's Badniks surround him in Stone. Gerald states that it's not worth fighting, and that it's time to be smart, to work smarter, not harder. Robotnik is ultimately stating that it's been a dream to work with him, but he's gone crazy. Now, when he heard he had a grandfather, he thought he was amazing, but that changed. Robotnik then ultimately presses a button, summoning some egg badniks to attack some of Gerald's badniks, and Stone pulls out his GUN blaster and starts firing down below. Robotnik sneaks down into the emerald area and nabs 4 of the emeralds. This causes the Ark to decrease its power from 100% to 40%. Gerald is furious at this and tells Shadow to get Robotnik. Robotnik summons his Eggmobile and Stone jumps on board as the 2 of them fly across as Robotnik launches out a ring so that they can escape, with Shadow and the other drones following after. The egg drones shield off, Robotnik. As the 2 enter into the ring portal, Shadow is about to intercept, but it closes just in the nick of time. Shadow is furious that he couldn't catch up to Robotnik in time, and he reports back to Gerald. Gerald is a bit annoyed, but he tells him it's fine. Because not only that, he picks up one of Robotnik's rings. Robotnik left a couple behind. He left 4 to be precise. He tells Shadow it's no big deal, and tells him to hunt down Robotnik as he tracks him on the computer, finding out that he's located at Green Hills. He tells him to take some of his badniks and to go after Robotnik. Shadow agrees, and the two state that this plan must be kept, and that it cannot go off the rails anymore. And that Gerald has been waiting for this plan, his revenge, for decades. Knuckles is absolutely furious over this, as he ultimately gets charged up because they're using the Master Emerald's power. Tom wakes up from obviously being knocked out, and is a bit confused on what's going on. Sonic would explain everything, but is glad that Tom's awake. After Tom hears this, he immediately asks how Sonic is doing. He says he's doing good, but it gave him a scare as he thought he was gone. But Sonic says that he made a mistake and that he's going to correct it and face Shadow. Just then a ring portal opens up and something crash lands into the garden. It's Eggman and Stone out of the Eggmobile. As Robotnik crawls out of it, covered in dirt and stains, some of his badniks also come out as well. Stone looks around to see Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, telling the Doctor that they have company. Amy summons a hammer ready to attack, saying it's that mustache guy again, and Tom and Maddie are not pleased to see Robotnik either. Robotnik even declares that he himself will teach them a lesson, and that as Sonic's about to ultimately attack Robotnik, Stone steps in the way, acting as a sort of shield for Robotnik. Robotnik then ultimately explains himself, and that why he's here. Amy asks, why is he here? And Robotnik says if she'll allow him to speak, then he will talk. He explained how he's been working with his grandfather, Dr. Gerald Robotnik, who it turns out wants to destroy humanity, and that he only used half of the Eclipse Cannon's power in the Ark. However, Knuckles comes crashing in, fighting off Robotnik's drones, which annoys the Doctor a lot. However, Sonic tells Knuckles to stand down, as Robotnik comes in peace. To which Robotnik makes a snarling comment about how peace is entirely pointless. Robotnik would then ultimately declare out that not only is that they're also facing a problem. Robotnik shows 4 of the emeralds which he stole from the Ark, so he bought them a bit of time, and says that they need to work together in order to stop Shadow and Gerald. Sonic doesn't like this idea, but goes with it anyway because it's the only way to save the planet. However, Tails tells him that this is a very bad idea, but Sonic says that it won't stop him. As nighttime falls over, badniks watch the house as they keep an eye on everything, making sure everyone's all kept into lockdown to make sure that nothing bad happens. As the group are all preparing to do a plan, they're all in the dining room thinking of another idea. Maddie brings Robotnik a latte, which he drinks, ultimately spitting it out, calling it disgusting, which she gets really annoyed at him, and Tom tells him that they will be happy to call the government to have him be arrested. Robotnik just drinks it anyway, and shrugs it all off. The group talks about a plan to try and infiltrate the Ark. However, they mention about pulling out the Master Emerald from the power source, but Tails sees the blueprints of the Ark and notices that if he did, all of the energy would come out and the Ark would probably cause a nuclear explosion that would essentially still destroy Earth. As they're all thinking of different plans that they could, however, Robotnik comes up with an idea that might sound a bit crazy. If Sonic can use all of the Chaos Emeralds, then maybe he could use his powers and push the Ark away from Earth And then, at the last minute, Knuckles pulls out the Master Emerald, and then, well, it's at a very safe distance away from, well, Earth. The group all agree to this idea, as they not only think it's a very good idea, but it could possibly work. However, Tom and Maddie do think this idea is very risky and that Sonic could die in this, which Amy does become quite worried for Sonic, but he tells her that it's okay, that when he withstood a lot with the emeralds. Just then, a massive Gerald Badnik comes firing in, destroying a part of the home. Meanwhile, Shadow is looking through some of the broken glass in an abandoned laboratory using some of Robotnik's rings. Just then, he sees Maria's reflection talk to him, reflecting on his actions and him just saying that soon this will all be over. As it turns back to normal, Shadow dashes on forward, charged up with all of his energy, and heads towards Green Hills. Using all of his power, he skates on through, with determination in his eyes, ready to continue Gerald's mission, to finish the job. Shadow stands in front of the burnt Wachowski house, ready to deal with Sonic. He grabs Sonic by the throat, ultimately pinning him, destroying stuff, and throwing him into a ring portal. Sonic, Tails, Amy, Knuckles, and Robotnik head on in. Robotnik tells Stone to keep an eye on the Wachowskis, and if things go wrong, head back to base. As the group all head in, they see Sonic and Shadow and Gerald. Gerald welcomes Robotnik back, saying that if he's offered his agreement, and that he's brought rodents with him. Robotnik tells him that he's not interested in destroying the planet, he's interested in ruling it. But Gerald tells him that this was all part of his plan, and that he's not a Robotnik, he's a disgrace to the Robotnik name. Gerald then orders Shadow to attack them as he prepares the Ark. Robotnik states that won't be necessary. Sonic and Knuckles charge towards Shadow, ready to clash him in a glorious fight. While Gerald's Badniks try to attack Robotnik, Amy and Tails intervene to destroy them. They head towards the control to hopefully hack into the Ark to stop the cannon from firing. All the Gerald Badniks surround Robotnik, with Gerald clapping, telling Robotnik that he's nothing but a joke, and that he's just a tool used to manipulate him. He's got nothing. But Robotnik says that he has something he never will. An ego as big as his. He then summons something from a ring portal, a small little suit which transforms into a massive kind of Hulkbuster mech, ready to battle it out. However, Gerald simply gloats at this before summoning his own one, a very old 1974 mech, but he then powers it up using one of Shadow's quills, which gives it an increase in speed and power. Robotnik declares that two can play this game, and snaps his fingers and grabs out a quill that he had. He then licks it first and then plugs it in, and the battle begins, with Amy and Tails battling out the Gerald Badniks. Amy says that there's too many of them, and Tails is struggling to hack into the Ark system, as Gerald put a very hard kind of hack over it, which not only caused it to become pretty much unbreakable. Shadow dashes towards and into Sonic, causing him to go into a wall. Knuckles and Sonic decide to team up to take on Shadow. Shadow himself is kicking around to get the emeralds, to try and see if who's got the emeralds. He manages to grab two of them and dash towards. Sonic and Knuckles pursue him, and quickly easily overpower Shadow. Just then, a bunch of Gerald's Badniks begin to point their weapons at Tails, who notices, the Badnik begins to fire, and it shoots one of the controls on the weapons on the Ark. With this, the Ark turns to the side. As everything begins to move all around, the Ark begins to spin out of control. Gerald tells the robot that he is an idiot for doing this, as it's very hard to gain control back on there. Gerald's mech begins to fire all around to try and pin Robotnik's mech to the wall. He tells Robotnik even more. He mocks him. And then tells him that everything he ever did was a lie. Him working for the government was pretty much just them. He was always a puppet used by someone else. Robotnik's aware of this, but that's why he turned evil. That's why he is the one in charge. Tails and Amy then try to hack into the Ark's control panel, but with no luck. Luckily, Robotnik fires out all sorts of different other missiles, as well as some egg drones, to help them out. As they begin to hack into the Ark, they change the direction, changing it back to normal. Meanwhile, Sonic and Shadow are clashing it out all across the Ark in the lower part, with electricity firing everywhere. Sonic declares that this ends now, to which Shadow declares, "I couldn't agree more. This does end now." Robotnik injects himself out of his mech and heads over to Tails. Robotnik mentions that he can't do this exactly. Can't do this alone. Tails tells him that they're not alone, that they can do it together. Robotnik and Tails decide to hack into the Ark together, using both their knowledge. Knuckles approaches the Master Emerald, ready for the plan to be initiated. He then begins to pull the Master Emerald out. As the wires come off, the electricity goes off everywhere, firing all sorts. As Gerald's about to attack Robotnik, the mech gets electrocuted, which causes it to depower and fall down. The Ark's cannon begins to ultimately go out of control before blowing up. With that all done, Robotnik throws a ring portal back to Green Hills. Tails, Amy, and, Knuckles, they all head there. However, Gerald tells them that they're all stupid, and that he's just activated his contingency plan. And that would be the Ark can still use all of the Nexus energy. Tails mentions that the Ark still has all the energy built up from Shadow, and that it can fire it and destroy an entire planet. And that someone has to stay behind to keep control of the Ark's controls. Robotnik ultimately sees this and tells them that he will take control of the Ark, which catches everyone off guard. But since there's no time, they all agree to this. Robotnik then gives Tails an egg drone and tells him to leave. Amy's about to leave, but then she notices something. She notices Shadow sitting there, looking over it. However, she approaches him and asks why did he save her back on the island? Shadow explains that she reminded him of her, his friend. He then tells how his friend Maria was wonderful. She was kind, polite. She didn't care what Shadow looked like. She didn't really care. She thought he was a friend, kind-hearted person. She thought that a little bit of kindness could help anyone to make them the best of who they were. And Shadow explains on why he hates humanity. They killed Maria. They destroyed everything, and now I must get my revenge. But Amy intervenes, telling him that there are people on the planet who haven't done anything, and that there are good humans out there. Ones who deserve a chance. That everyone deserves a chance to be happy. Shadow suddenly remembers what Maria promised all those years ago, and suddenly realizes what he must do. He dashes away. Sonic begins to think on how he can do this, and is prepared to tap into the power of the emeralds. However, Shadow jumps in, telling him that he's decided to help him, and that he's going to need a hand out there. Sonic is not in a particularly good mood, but Shadow insists on him helping, because he's doing this for a friend. Sonic agrees, and the two of them turn super in glorious scene with Live and Learn playing in the background. As the two look at each other, they blast off into the air, out of the space colony Ark, and into space. The two of them would see the Ark completely glitching out with green electricity everywhere. As the two of them would push the Ark slowly away, Robotnik would begin to try and gain controls of the Ark, ultimately trying to get it to move away from Earth, as it begins to malfunction and fire out all sorts of things, with the electricity even damaging parts of famous landmarks around the world. Robotnik even begins to kick some of the machinery. Sonic and Shadow realize that they need to destroy it to rip off the cannon in order to stop it. However, Shadow ultimately tells Sonic that that's not the way, and dashes into the Ark, ultimately pushing it aside. The Ark continues to malfunction. They destroy some of the bits of the side of the Ark before continuously pushing it away, believing that the Ark would be better off away from Earth, and, well, the blast would help. Super Sonic taps into his power, and they begin to push it back. However, the electricity stops them. So both Super Sonic and Super Shadow fight off the electricity, which holds them back, and even slams them into asteroids. It then even grabs asteroids and picks them up. Super Shadow emerges out, ready to end this once and for all. He then launches out his Chaos Spheres to attack, even using his Chaos Control to break free of the electricity, and even dash towards the Ark, managing to cut off some of the power source of it. Tom and Maddie look up into the sky to see the battle going on. So does Agent Stone as well, who's managed to sneak away from the carnage. As the group are all watching, Super Shadow continues to fight it all out, electrifying everything, ultimately continuously pushing it. Even as rocket shoots boost in, Super Sonic ends up helping Shadow out, and they boost even more, past the moon, and even past Mars. As the two are continuously fighting it out with more powers, more abilities, Sonic would kick one side of the electricity, forcing it back in line. Shadow would do the same thing. In fact, they would trade fights, and the two of them would swap positions to save each other from certain death. Shadow would even launch more Chaos Spears out, attacking the ship. Inside, the Ark is going crazy with electricity firing everywhere. Green, chaotic electricity. Robotnik continues to gain control of the controls, even perhaps trying to alter it all. Even trying to just gain control, but the machine everything keeps tapping out, breaking, destroying. Just everything crumbling around him. He then sees something truly amazing. Something that catches him. All chaos power. Shadow decides it's time that he ends this. He sends Sonic back down to Earth using his Chaos Control, ultimately punching the emeralds out of him, before grabbing a hold of the Ark and pushing it away. He yells out, "This is my true power," before taking off his inhibitor rings, yelling out, "This is the power of Chaos Control. This is who I am. Gerald would get up to see all the energy going around him, to witness all the chaos, before he yells out, "No! No! This wasn't part of his plan, and that Shadow is disobeying him." He then tries to order Shadow to stop, however the communication's cut short. As Robotnik stands in the way, Gerald asks is he happy that he is not a Robotnik, and that what is he? To which Robotnik responds, "It's, don't you know who I am? I am the Eggman. It's what I am, and I've got the master plan." For grinning creepily at Gerald, which frightens him completely. As Robotnik continues to fire on it, he runs to his mech, as Shadow yells out, "Chaos Control!" As Gerald's face begins to glitch out, seeing everything flash right before him, controlling everything. His face changes, everything alters, and it changes everything. Gerald sees life very differently. Robotnik, who jumped into his Eggmobile and activates the shield, is still seeing everything flash before his eyes. The world changing completely. Everything going. Everything changing. And how the world and it all will forever be different. And poof. The arc appears. Its energy stops, but it charges up and vanishes. This catches everyone off guard. Tom is surprised and happy that the arc is gone. As Sonic wakes up next to Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, he's also surprised. Shadow sacrificed his life to save them. Tails mentions that the arc has been completely gone according to his scanners. It's just disappeared. Sonic wonders how on earth did that actually happen? Knuckles, who has the Master Emerald, says that the Chaos Emerald energy sent out a somewhat teleportation. It got teleported somewhere. But he doesn't know. Sonic looks up into the sky to see all sorts. While the moon is still in half. Amy would then point out that some military trucks are approaching, as we would then see a bunch of military helicopters and GUN trucks. Walters, who came out of the hospital early, sees them and tells them to be arrested, but he's willing to perhaps, after seeing them and that they managed to stop the battle, Walters states that for a token of appreciation, the president has given you access to what you want. He hands all of them a passport. He then gives, that they can basically do anything that humans do. To which immediately, Tails is happy that he gets a small laboratory where he can build gadgets for future missions. Knuckles still continues his job. However, Rockwell says that she would be careful out there, as that without those passports, they can still capture them and bring them in. But Walters tells them that when they need them, they will call and come find them. For now, he would suggest they lay low. And, continue their lives as usual. Sonic would look up into the sky, feeling a sort of sense of sadness, as he would not only reminisce that it should have been him and not Shadow. In the aftermath of it, we see Amy Rose buying a place and opening up a florist to do flowers. Knuckles would be guarding the Master Emerald, and Tails would be in his new workshop building a new tornado. we would see Sonic running across the world, doing his normal thing. However, he would stop when he sees the moon, saying that Shadow was the real hero that everyone deserves. Before Sonic turns away, he says, "Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog," before dashing away. Roll credits! But we're not done yet. In the post-credits scene, we see Agent Stone and a bunch of badniks paying tribute to Dr. Robotnik, as it's been weeks they've been searching for him, with nothing in his laboratory, nothing on the satellite and anything. However, Stone activates a button that plays a pre-recorded message for Robotnik. Robotnik says if Stone's watching this, then the worst has already happened to him. But that does not mean that the Empire must continue on, for the Eggman Empire will continue, and thus says that Stone must be the person to continue it. But there is something he can do. Over the years, he's been developing a certain weapon, a weapon that can be the ultimate enforcer, and now I can test it out with the power source I have. With the kind of power I present to you, Hyper Metal Sonic. He will take care of our my hedgehog problem. He's in charge now. Metal Sonic appears all white and ready to kill as he looks on. And then the credits would play as normal, with all the names of all people who ended up helping, and then we would get the second post-credit scene. Second post-credit scene, we see Sonic and Tails and Amy all talk about what's going on with Green Hills. Amy mentions about a fortune card reading that she had recently. Something about something coming, something dangerous coming. Just then a ring portal opens up, and Sonic looks on. As the person steps forward, it's Silver the Hedgehog, who tells Sonic the Hedgehog that he is in grave danger, and it's important that they work together on this one.